Imagine the sting of a severe romantic rejection. Now, imagine that same moment playing out with every eye in the room fixed directly on you. In this scenario, there is no going home to hide. You wake up the next morning and eat breakfast around the exact same fire as the 40 people who just watched you fail. For most of history, humans lived in nomadic bands of 20 to 50 people. Your entire social world was the size of a modern classroom. Without bedrooms or walls, personal space was non-existent. Every attraction, argument, and private conversation happened in a crowd. Today, we use digital tools to curate our romantic lives in private. Ancient humans had to navigate their attractions while surrounded by 36 relatives holding spears and cooking over an open flame. This constant public surveillance functioned as a high-pressure evolutionary crucible, setting the biological rules for how our ancestors chose their mates. Hollywood often depicts prehistoric dating as a matter of brute force, the muscular alpha male using a club to take whatever mate he chooses. Evidence from modern hunter-gatherer societies, like the Jahwansi people of southern Africa, suggests a different reality. These groups operate on egalitarian principles, where social life is organized in a circle around a shared fire, rather than a hierarchy dominated by one individual. In this hyper-public environment, women held significant social agency. Because the entire tribe was always watching, women could openly reject suitors they disliked, with the protection of the collective behind them. Separations and divorce were common and socially accepted. If a relationship stopped working, the couple split, without the massive structural or legal drama we associate with modern breakups. Physical domination was nearly impossible in an egalitarian group of armed equals. Early human romance relied on mutual consent and female autonomy. These stone tools represent the total absence of luxury in the prehistoric world. A typical camp contained fewer items than you'd find in a single kitchen drawer today. This wealth vacuum meant that humans couldn't use property, status symbols, or material gifts to attract a partner. With no possessions to hide behind, mate evaluation shifted entirely to observable, everyday behavior. The tribe looked for specific behavioral markers. First, they watched how an individual handled sudden danger or extreme environmental stress. Second, they looked for generosity, whether a person shared meat fairly with the group after a successful hunt. Third, they noted the emotional intelligence required to comfort a crying child in front of the group. Courting one person meant successfully passing this behavioral audit in front of the entire tribe simultaneously. Character and emotional intelligence became the primary currency for survival. In a world without wealth, your public reputation was your only asset. This raises the question of who actually held the most influence in the group. While physical strength was vital for the hunt, it did not guarantee social or romantic dominance. Instead, the most sought-after trait in the prehistoric world was social intelligence, specifically humor and the ability to tell a story. Anthropologists studying the Agda people in the Philippines found that the most skilled storytellers are chosen more frequently as mates. These individuals actually tend to have more children than the strongest hunters in their group. The ability to make a stressed, exhausted tribe laugh around a fire provided immense social value, easing tensions and keeping the group together. Humor, empathy, and storytelling served as evolutionary tools. These social traits influenced which lineages thrived, directing the development of the human mind for thousands of years. Finding a partner today seems like a purely modern obsession. We spend hours curating dating profiles, chasing physical perfection, and swiping on glass screens. Yet, despite our high-speed internet and perfectly filtered photos, your brain operates on biological software written tens of thousands of years ago. To actually understand human connection, we have to look past the modern trappings of romance and examine the harsh survival tactics of our early ancestors. The urges that pull us together are hardwired evolutionary strategies forged by prehistoric necessity. For early humans, physical standards were deeply tied to staying alive. A facial scar signaled bravery and successful hunting experience, making it a highly desirable trait rather than a flaw to hide. Even our sense of smell played a massive role. While we spend billions today on deodorants to erase our natural odors, ancient humans relied heavily on scent to choose a mate. Studies show that people subconsciously prefer the scent of potential partners who have immune systems completely different from their own, which increases the chances of having healthier offspring. The chemistry of attraction you feel across a crowded room is largely your nose calculating the strongest genetic match for the next generation's survival. Finding a biological match was only the first step. Before the invention of fire, nighttime was an incredibly dangerous period, where early humans had to remain completely silent and hidden to avoid predators. The invention of fire provided a defense that did not exist in the open air, creating a bubble of safety that pushed back the dark. Suddenly, humans had extra waking hours after the sun went down. This secured time provided a stage for complex social interactions. Stories emerged, jokes were shared, and early forms of flirting evolved. Fire physically carved out the safe time and space required for human romance to flourish. Once a couple formed, they faced a massive biological challenge. Human babies are born unusually helpless, requiring more than a decade of intensive care just to reach basic independence. The sheer effort required to raise a child forced early humans into a system of cooperative breeding. Survival depended on an active network of older siblings, aunts, and uncles sharing the workload. This community structure aligns with a biological trait rare in the animal kingdom. Human females live long past their reproductive years. This chart maps the grandmother hypothesis. As the data clearly shows, the survival rate of offspring surges upward when non-reproductive elder caregivers are present in the family unit. Elder females became so critical in raising grandchildren that living longer after their reproductive years directly benefited the survival of the entire species. The human concept of family became inherently communal because sustaining our uniquely complex brains literally required a village. It is easy to picture early ancestors as rugged survivors who operated purely on instinct, devoid of complex feelings. But archaeological evidence paints a very different picture. We have discovered ancient burials where humans were deliberately laid to rest, holding one another. In some graves dating back tens of thousands of years, scientists have found evidence that flowers were intentionally and carefully placed beside the bodies. That intentional act suggests our ancestors experienced deep, soul-crushing heartbreak. Someone cared enough to stop their daily fight for survival just for a moment to mourn. Beneath our modern clothes and technology, we possess the exact same capacity for empathy and social connection that allowed our ancestors to endure the prehistoric world. If early humans were so skilled at cooperation and survival, it raises a difficult question. Why are we the only human species left on Earth today? As our ancestors expanded across the globe, they inevitably encountered another highly developed species, the Neanderthals. Rather than strictly fighting, the two groups frequently interbred. That ancient mixing came with a dark biological consequence. Evidence suggests that the male hybrids born from these cross-species unions were completely infertile, much like mules. This infertility functioned as a genetic drain. It slowly reduced the Neanderthal population, dooming their entire species to a quiet, tragic extinction. What were the specific mechanics behind this genetic divide? And what other factors defined our complex interactions with the Neanderthals? We examine the evidence behind this extinction in our next video. To follow our investigation into the history of our species, hit subscribe and join Mythos Decoded. Until next time, stay curious.